Thank you, Lindsay. Magical. With your magic hands, which I'm probably going to talk about in a moment. But, okay, so you're here in person. We have quite a few of you, and some of you who haven't been here yet since you've been back. Yay! You do get a day off, Floran. It is okay. Floran's been volunteering almost every day since Julie's been out, so thank you for that. But since you guys are here, you guys get to take the vote. Do you want to hear a quick joke on a wedding or on the Ten Commandments? Wedding? Wedding? Ten Commandments? Oh, one? I'll tell it to you later. Okay. So this little girl went to a wedding with her mom, and she said, "Mom, why does the bride always wear a white dress?" And the mom said, "Oh, because the white dress, it's so beautiful and joyful and happy." And so then the little girl, she's sitting there and she's thinking and she's just observing and looking around, and she sees the groom and he's wearing black. And she says, "But Mom, well then why is the groom wearing black?" And the mom goes, "Because that's marriage." That's so cute. I think it's like, okay, it is and it isn't, and it would be something a child would ask and say. That's funny. But anyway, today our message all month is this cosmic connection. Please excuse me continually touching my bangs that I cut myself. I bet some of you must know how that feels to do a little at-home trim and go too far. But cosmic connections, this morning, we have been following CSL's global theme, which was 2020 vision, bringing our spiritual vision into focus. And each month they have a theme and a talk title if we choose to use it. And I think we went ahead and chose to use this one, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And so I was listening to the song. Do you guys know who sings Bridge Over Troubled Waters? Okay, it's Simon and Garfunkel. Okay, and actually it was Garfunkel because I did some digging into the song, trying to learn a little bit about it, and because I kind of geek out on that stuff. So Simon wrote it, and he wrote it as like this gospel hymn, just the first two verses. And it talks about, when we're going through trouble and struggle and all that it's basically like God speaking to the listener, saying, "I will be the bridge over troubled water for you." And when Garfunkel heard it, and then Clive Davis heard it, they said, "Oh, no, you got to throw in the third verse here to make it more popular because this is a hit." And so that's how it transitioned and transformed into what it is today, which is one of the biggest hits, not only of theirs, but of all time. So I'm listening to it, and I'm listening to it with the ear of knowing what the intention of the song was for, and then, of course, always with that metaphysician's ear as well, right? Because a lot of gospel hymns can sound very separate, right? Like there's dualism, like God is going to do something for us, or it's going to provide something for us, or it's going to somehow take care of us or fix it or make it better, and that it's not us, right? So there's like a distinction there. But as the diligent metaphysicians that we are, we can translate things pretty quickly in our mind. Can you guys translate things pretty quickly in your mind now? Yeah. I realize in talking to some people who grew up in other faith traditions that sometimes still takes a little bit of getting used to, right? That God is not outside of me thing and all of that. But for the most part, that is a fundamental principle that the science of mind philosophy teaches, is that God can only do to us what it can do through us, right? I think that's 12 words. God can only do to us what it can do through us. And that is kind of the point and the message that I want to share this morning. Because in a cosmic connection, in being a bridge over troubled water, we have to be it for ourselves, and we have to be it for others, because there is no deity outside of ourselves, outside of us that's going to do this. We can ask, beseech, pray in whatever way we choose, but unless we are open to finding the compassion within our hearts to be that supportive hand to someone else when they're suffering, or unless they are for us, then that bridge doesn't exist. And we can be this for ourselves as well. I mean, Ernest Holmes, I loved something Ernest Holmes said in, you've heard the What We Believes. Have you heard the What We Believes? If you're new here, there's like a whole declaration of principles, and it's not a doctrine or anything, but it's called What We Believe, but it's not called What We Believe. Ernest Holmes wrote it because at the very, very, very first Science of Mind magazine ever, the editor asked him and said, "Can you please write down what you believe?" And so in the 1927 edition of the Science of Mind magazine, he says specifically, "I believe," not we, but I believe in the living Spirit Almighty, the one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. And that this one manifests itself in and through all of creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. And we are the way that expresses, right? We are the only way, life is the way that this divine mind, this divine intelligence that I'm going to call God, and I find it a little bit funny, side note, that sometimes I feel like we apologize for using the word God, because it's like, how many churches do you know apologize for using the word God? And I know that we don't actually apologize. We're like, well, you know, like God or Spirit or the divine, or like how many synonyms do we need to use to make sure everybody feels included, right? But just, you know what I'm talking about, that the thing itself. So there's that thing itself, and it expresses uniquely as each of us, and each of us gets to be, if we are open to it, a bridge for another. And we can only do this through having self-love and self-compassion, self-forgiveness, because if we can't have that for ourselves, then there's no way to have it for another. If we haven't forgiven ourselves for anything and everything, like in the land of I am, right? In this land of I am, which is what Moses said, that the burning bush, who should I say? He says, the I am. In the land of I am, more than I have ever been and more than I will ever be, I am. We are right now. And I want to share this idea with you about the fact that this 12-word phrase that God can only do to us what it can do through us, by sharing with you just an example of this piano. Take this piano. Do you know that the piano did not exist before 1700? The first piano was created in 1700, and Lindsay can correct me if I'm wrong, but not yet. And the piano, think about it. It is such an intricate instrument that people can spend their entire lives studying it and playing it and trying to master it. And before that, it took serious, engineering thought to create this, to put this into being, right? And it came through us. Someone had the inspiration, and someone else had the due diligence, and someone else had an idea, and they all collaborated together to create this beautiful instrument. And now if you look inside, if you use a fMRI brain scan, and you look inside a concert pianist, a professional pianist, you will see that their brain uses so much activity. Almost the entirety of the brain is lit up when they're playing this instrument, because not only are they thinking about the composition, but they have 10 fingers moving, they've got their foot pedal, they're possibly singing at the same time. There's so many different things going on all at the same time that causes this pattern of thinking, right? And this pattern of thinking wouldn't have been available if it weren't for that divine inspiration of all of those collaborative ideas and minds coming together to create this beautiful instrument. And so it's like what I'm going to call the palette of being. Imagine that you're holding, this is just one tiny little example of this on our palette of being. So have you ever held a palette, like a painter's palette? And you've got your colors? Now just imagine there's a palette of being. There's a palette with all the colors that you could ever imagine, and then there is so much space left for all the colors that the person in 1690 never could have thought of or imagined, because there was no piano, right? And in that same way, we all are born with a context of ways of being, of thought patterns. But at the same time, we have a palette of being where we get to collaborate and collide with other divine beings in order to create something new. And so whereas it might sound really overwhelming to some, that this divine being that created everything and that is a loving, compassionate, almighty, Holy Spirit of life, that it is within you, that may be really a big idea for some people. And yet it is the palette of being. And we get to use any part of it that we can grasp, that we can tangibly pull within ourselves and recognize as truth. And we can be that for another. And what I'm saying is this: no matter what our water of life is like right now, if we feel choppy, if within ourselves we feel like we're a wreck or a fraud or are too scared to go outside, or maybe if we feel just fine, I don't know. Even in the midst of that choppy water, there is a divine something within us that is a bridge for another. Have you ever had a really, really bad day and someone called you, a friend called you, and you just talked to them, and somehow they ended up thanking you for some words of wisdom, or for listening, or for something? And you're like, wow, I didn't really think I had the energy. I didn't think I had it in me. I didn't think I had that. But we do. We have this entire landscape of possibility. And so what I want to invite us to do now is just go into a practice. I'm going to read to you what this beloved mentor, I'm going to call him a mentor. He is a mentor. He would not like to be a prophet, and he wouldn't like to be a saint or a sage, so I'm going to call him a mentor. I'm going to read to you what Dr. Ernest Holmes believes in, and I would never, ever try to ask you or tell you what you should believe in. But I want to invite you to see if any of these statements are a color on your palette of being. And so I invite you to just close your eyes and maybe just breathe for a moment. Imagine you're holding that palette of being, all of those colors of life that you already know, that you've experienced, that you've seen. And just breathe again, and breathe into that idea that What are my colors? What are my core beliefs? I believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one, this Spirit, this divine, this God, manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. I believe in the incarnation of Spirit in everyone, and that all beings are incarnations of one Spirit. I believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. I believe that heaven is within me, and that I experience it to the degree that I become conscious of it. Breathe into that right now. This can be our choice right now. I believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation of struggle and discord of every nature, and that this is sure to be attained by all. I believe that in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. I believe that God is personal to all who feel its indwelling presence. I believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of the individual, and that any person may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with that indwelling Spirit. I believe that the universal Spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that I am surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of my thoughts and acts upon it. I believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. I believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, my own destiny, for I understand that the life of all is God. And he says, amen, and so it is. And so I invite you to look at that palette. You can open your eyes if you'd like to, and just imagine the palette of your being. Has it expanded? Do you see all of the colors? Do you know? Can you believe that I know if you can't know? That's what I always ask my closest friends when I'm having a hard time. Can you know for me so I can just be in my troubled waters and you can be the bridge? Can you just know for me? Can you know that I know that you are the divine being of life and that you are the healing force that is not going to, that is in this present moment, that you were born for a time such as this. I believe in the strength of your spirit, of your soul, of your integrity, and of your life force energy, and that it is right now healing the unconscious wounds of all. And so I just want to encourage you, as I encourage myself, to daily remind myself to love myself. And I want to invite you to daily remind yourself to love yourself. I say, I love you, Nicole. I love you, sweet girl. Do you want to tell yourself you love you? Quietly or out loud, you can say, I love me some me. Somebody said that. I don't know who, but I loved it. I love me some me. What a beautiful idea. As much as we can hold that love within us, we can also exude it just by our being. And in this way, this cosmic connection becomes more than just something where we're something and the universe is this big other something. It becomes a collective dance. It becomes a symphony where each one of us are playing our own beautiful instruments, and together we rise in consciousness. We build that bridge from one way to another by going over. And so this is what I hope for each of us this week, this month, this year, this time, wherever we are inside. Ask for help if you need it. And know that no matter where you are loved and you are seen as divine. And I think that's all, and so it is.